Hi everyone, welcome to my second Verbling reading class of the day. We're going to be talking about a little bit more advanced content. My last class was about internet memes and we looked at some pretty dumb, funny stuff. We're going to be getting a little bit more serious for this class and talking about some U.S. political history, some U.S. economics. I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the politics and economics in my country and a couple of things you might find interesting. So we'll be focusing on a couple of the presidents that we've recently had, the two Bush presidents, father and son. And we'll be talking a little bit about also some modern economic stuff that's going on. Some of you might have heard about the Fiscal Cliff in the United States. We'll be talking a little bit about that and bringing it all back to the Bush father and son and talking about them. So hopefully we'll be getting into some pretty interesting politics, and I'm not super much an expert on this stuff, but hopefully I can learn something from you guys and give you some good vocabulary to talk about the economy. So first we'll start by introducing ourselves, as we always do. I'm Libby, and I'm a Verbling teacher. I am American, but I live in France now. And I'm really excited to be teaching for Verbling. It's fun. I teach French students during the day. Hey, Ragul, can you mute yourself, please? You have a lot of background noise. So make sure to mute your microphone when you're not participating. Cool. So anyway, yeah. So I teach French high school students as my day job, I guess, and then I teach for Verbling as well. And today I would like to hear from you all. What is your name? What country are you in at the moment? And what is your favorite kind of music? So my name is Libby. I'm in France. And my favorite kind of music, I like pretty much all music, but my favorite kind of music is electronic music. So kind of house music and related genres like that. I really like electronic music. So I would like to hear from all of you. Ahmed, can you introduce yourself first for us?
Hey, my name is Ahmed. I'm from Syria. My favorite kind of music is classical. Nice to meet you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Huen, can you introduce yourself next?
Yes, hello everyone, my name is Huen. I'm from Vietnam and I listen to every kinds of music.
Good, very good. Okay, the next person, I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry. Hussein? Are you here?
I'm Hussein, and he's one of my best friends, Ansar, and we are from Turkey. My favorite kind of music is rock, maybe.
Great, okay. So it's Hussein, is that okay? Is that close?
Yep.
and Ansar is your friend?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you too.
And let's see, next we have Ibrahim.
Yeah, my name is Ibrahim. I live in Russia. My favorite kind of song it is romantic or sad songs.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. Nice to meet you. Next we have, I'm not sure, Jarenson?
Harrison.
Harrison, okay, sorry.
Hello everyone. I'm from Colombia. My favorite music Okay, I like vallenato music. Is from Colombia. It's very popular here, and salsa music.
Great.
Do you know something about vallenato?
No, I'm not very familiar.
Okay, no problem.
But I'm sure it's good. If you want to share a link in the chat or something, I would love to listen to it.
Okay, I try it.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Harrington. Next, we have, let's see, Kuralai? Kuralai? You here? Kuralai Moratovna? Okay, let me know if you get your microphone working. Until then, we'll move on to the next person. So next we have Maria.
Yes, hello. I have some problem with my headset. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can hear you great, actually. Your sound quality is excellent.
Is there an echo?
I
can hear an echo.
When I speak, I can hear myself echo. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to fix it because I'm not sure what's wrong here. But...
You're wearing headphones?
Yeah, I have earphones, but I'm using the computer's microphone. So because my ordinary headset is out of order, I don't know how.
I see. Okay. Well, it sounds. At the moment, it sounds okay, actually. So I think.
Okay, mute me.
You might be okay.
If there are noise.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay, I'm Maria. I live in Sweden, and I also listen to all kinds of music.
Awesome. Great. It must be very dark there now, because even in France, a lot of the day this time of year, it's always dark outside.
Yeah, it's dark.
How many hours is it like daylight? How many hours is the light outside?
It's from 8 in the morning to 4 p.m.
Oh, okay. So it's the same. Yeah, it's the same here.
I live in the southern part.
Oh, that's okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Still not very much sunlight, but that's okay. I guess we can look forward to summertime even more.
Exactly.
Okay. Next is Ragul.
Yes, ma'am. Rahul from India.
Okay, and what is your favorite kind of music?
I like Western kinds of music. Western music.
Cool. You have an echo on your microphone. I'm not sure why.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It makes it hard.
One of my headset is not working properly.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you because the echo is like immediate, so it covers up your voice, so I can't really hear you. I'm sorry. Try to work on your headset, I guess. I'm not sure. Make sure also that you don't have the Verbling window open in the background. Sometimes that can cause an echo. So that goes for everyone. In case you have a problem, make sure to close the Verbling window and just have your Google Hangouts window open. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so next we have Yusuf. Yusuf, are you here?
Here I am again. I'm Yusuf from Yemen. My native is Arabic, and I like R&B music, jazz, and trance.
Okay, great. Thank you. There's an echo on yours too, and I'm not sure if it's coming from. Oh my goodness. If it's coming from Ragul or someone else. No, it's
from Ragul.
Okay. That seems better. Well, we'll see. But make sure that you're closing. Everyone, make sure you're closing your Verbling window, and try to mute yourself when you're not participating, because we're having a lot of echo today for some reason. All right, cool. Let's see. So we're going to get started with our lesson for today. So first, we're going to talk about a couple of U.S. presidents. Recently in the United States, we've had 2 presidents and their father and son. Do you know the names of those 2 U.S. presidents?
George W. Bush and George son.
Okay, so George H.W. Bush is the father, and then George W. Bush is the son. Okay, so sometimes you'll hear them referred to, for instance, George H.W. Bush. People call him Bush Sr. And sometimes George W. Bush, people just call him W or W, which is how you say W if you have a southern accent in the United States. So there's Senior and W. That refers to George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush. So yes, they're father and son. What U.S. state are they from? Does anyone know?
Texas.
Yes. They are both from Texas. Does anyone know what political party they belong to?
Republicans.
Good, they're Republicans.
The Grand Old Party.
What did you say, Maria?
The Grand Old Party.
Yes,
I
yeah,
learned
the
yesterday.
GOP. Yeah, the GOP stands for Grand Old Party, and that's what we call the Republican. It's one name for the Republican Party in the United States. Does anyone know what's the name of the other political party that we have, the other major political party?
Democrats.
Good, Democrats, or the Democratic Party. And which of these parties is on the right-hand side politically? Which is the right-wing party?
That is the Republicans. They are on the right too.
Good. So the Republicans are on the right. Another way of saying this is that the Republican Party is conservative. That puts the Democrats on the left, and they are the more liberal party. So the Bush father and son both belong to the Republican Party. This is the right-wing or conservative party in the United States. All right, cool. So first we're going to talk about the father, so George H.W. Bush. I'm going to give you a history article about him that I think is interesting. So open the link that I posted here. We're going to read this article together and then do a quick little quiz about it. All right. Let's open this. All right, here we go. This is an article, again, from my favorite website, EnglishClub.com, and they always publish something called This Week in History. This page changes every week, and it has a different historical event that happened during this week, sometime in history. So this particular event happened on January 8th, 1992. So again, this week, sometime in history. And this page is really good for English practice. They put up a new story every Monday, so if you're interested in history, they always have a short little story and some vocabulary words at the bottom, and then they have a quiz at the end. So I think it's really cool to do these little articles together because we learn something and we get to learn some vocabulary at the same time. Plus, this week's article I think is kind of funny, and so I decided to use it for my lesson. So the title of the article is U.S. President Bush Vomits on Japanese Leader. Underneath it says, U.S. President George Bush becomes ill and vomits on the Japanese Prime Minister. So does everyone understand what vomit means? If you don't, you can look at the vocabulary here at the bottom.
Extract the content of the stomach out of body.
Yes, so when you vomit, you throw up. You get rid of everything that was in your stomach. Is it nice to vomit on people? Is that a good idea?
No, it's very
No,
bad.
it's
No,
very bad.
It's one of the worst things you can possibly do to someone, I think, is to vomit on them. So this is pretty bad to vomit on someone, especially a prime minister of another country. So this is kind of that's why I think it's kind of funny. So who would like to read the first 2 sentences or so of this article out loud for us?
Okay, I go.
All right, go for it.
In 1992, George H.W. Bush, the 41st President of the United States of America, attended a state dinner in Tokyo, Japan. Before the event, President Bush complained of feeling unwell and was advised by his doctor to stay in bed.
Okay, good. Yeah, great. And who would like to read the next 2 sentences?
Me, Jimmy.
I think Danny, was that you?
Yeah, sure. Okay. However, the president decided to attend the dinner and was sitting next to the Japanese Prime Minister Miyazawa Kichi. During the meal, President Bush fell ill and turned and vomited on the Japanese Prime Minister.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the last sentence says, this remains the only recorded case of a head of state throwing up on the head of another country's government. So that means this is the only time that this has happened. And that's good because I don't think that should happen very often. The term head of state is a really good vocabulary word. So a head of state can be a president. A head of state can be a king if it's a government like that. A head of state can be a prime minister. It's just the chief person who represents a country. So head of state is a more general term. So in the United States, our head of state is the president, but different countries can have a different kind of head of state. Do any of you have a head of state in your country who is not a president? Something different.
We have a prime minister.
Okay, good. So Maria, you guys have a prime minister in Sweden. Mm-hmm. Who else has a different kind of head of state? So everyone mostly has presidents or prime ministers?
We have only president.
We have on my country only president.
We have a king also, but he doesn't really count.
Yeah.
Head of state, so.
I see. Yeah. All right, cool. So our head of state, our president, threw up on someone. That was embarrassing. And that was in 1992. Here's a picture. It's really blurry. The picture is blurry, but you can see that it's a picture of the president's wife holding a napkin up to his mouth after he threw up on the prime minister. So there it is, caught in photograph. All right, so let's just do this really quick quiz to check our comprehension about this story. The first question, can someone please read the first question out loud?
Okay, me?
Yes, go for it.
President Bush vomited on the Japanese Prime Minister because the Prime Minister, the food at the dinner was bad. He was feeling sick because the food at the dinner was bad. No, he was feeling sick.
Yeah, he was feeling sick before the dinner.
Yeah,
and his doctor told him not to go, but he went anyways. So I suppose he should have listened to his doctor, but he did not. So he vomited on him because he was already feeling sick. Okay, who would like to read the second question?
I would like to read.
Okay, go ahead, Mun.
The 41st President of the United States is the first head of state known to have A. attended the state dinner while feeling sick, B. thrown up on another country's leader, C. left a state dinner early.
Okay, what do you guys think? Which one?
B.
B. Throw up on another country's natives.
Yes.
B.
Good. Okay, so I would say that too. The answer is B. He's the first head of state known to have thrown up on another country's leader. Okay. How about the third question? Who wants to read it?
I'll do.
Maybe me.
Whoever said I'll do it, go ahead.
Okay. President Bush attended to dinner even though A. He had been advised not to eat Japanese food. B. His wife had advised him to stay in bed. C. His doctor had advised him not to go.
Okay, what's the answer?
C?
C?
Yeah. So the answer is C, because his doctor had advised him not to go. So that you notice all these answer choices use the verb advise. Advise is a really good vocabulary word as well. Up here you can see that advise means to suggest or recommend. So usually if you advise someone, it's kind of formal. So you would say, if you're a doctor, you would say, I advise you to take this medication. Normally with my friends, I don't say, I advise you to do this. It's kind of a formal way of saying to suggest something. So with my friends, I would usually say, I think you should, stay in bed today because you feel sick. But if I'm a doctor, I would say, I advise you to stay in bed. So advise is a more formal way of saying that you think someone should do something, or that you're suggesting that someone should do something. Okay, any questions about this article or any words that you don't understand?
Yeah, when you first told us about the article, I thought it was like a figuratively event that he might have said something that offended the other head of state. I mean, I was just thinking, can you use it like that?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So the verb vomit or throw up, it pretty much only means like the real thing.
Okay.
We do use a slang expression that's called word vomit. This is not a very common expression. It's from the movie Mean Girls. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie in English, but sometimes if you say something and then you're like, crap, why did I just say that? If you say something too quickly before you think about it, it can be called word vomit. Yeah, so then if you specify that, oh my gosh, it was just word vomit. I just said, I don't know what I was thinking. I just said it. So you can say that, yeah. But it's not that common, but you can say it. So, yeah. I'm sure, I mean, a lot of politicians have word vomit, certainly. A lot of politicians say things that they later regret saying, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of things during our most recent election that were said by politicians, they get quoted. They get quoted.
He said about the woman.
Yes, yeah. So Mitt Romney was it Mitt Romney where it was the binders of women? I think that was Mitt Romney. The whole binders of women. And then we had another politician that said something really controversial about rape in terms of abortion law, and that was like nobody could believe that he was that stupid.
Maybe Barack Obama.
And then Barack Obama, I don't remember what else he said. He said some stuff that was not good either. Mitt Romney said something about, I don't know, something like 40-something% of Americans are free riding on the system and they don't pay income tax, and he basically like insulted a large proportion of the U.S. population. So politicians say a lot of really dumb things, and then, of course, it all goes viral on the internet, and everyone knows about it. It's very interesting living in a digital age, I think, when things get spread so quickly. You know, gossip and stuff gets spread really fast, and it's kind of insane how fast some things get around. So that brings me to the next part of our lesson, which is the next article we have to read together. I just posted that link for you. This is also an article about George Bush Sr., so the father, George H.W. Bush. This is a very recent article about an example of how when you make a mistake or when you say something wrong in the media, it spreads really quickly. So this is actually from a couple of weeks ago. And what happened was a radio station accidentally reported that George H.W. Bush had died. He's not dead. He's alive still. He's alive and fine. But for some reason, someone got word that he was in the hospital and some misinformation occurred, and they thought that he had died. So this is pretty embarrassing for this radio station because they told everyone that George H.W. Bush had died when really he was alive. So later they had to issue an apology. So let's look at the article. It's a pretty short article, and so we'll read it pretty quickly. So would someone like to read the first sentence of the article that starts with former?
Maybe me.
Okay, go for it.
Former President George H.W. Bush has been in the Houston hospital for more than 1 month, receiving a treatment of complications resulting from bronchitis. His condition kept him away from home on Christmas, and 88 years old was admitted to the intensive care unit on Wednesday due to a serious tipbacks.
Good. Okay. So he's been in the hospital for more than a month in Houston, which is in Texas, where he lives, and he's receiving treatment for complications resulting from bronchitis. Does anyone know what the term medical complications means? Medical complications?
Maybe risk factor.
Close. Risk factors are something that make you more susceptible to a disease. So, for instance, if you smoke, you're more likely to get cancer. That's a risk factor. A complication is a little bit different. Does anyone else have any ideas?
Complication, maybe it's a complicate of current disease, making it serious problem, danger to his life, more than it's the original disease.
That's exactly right. So complications are something that results from an existing disease. He had bronchitis, which is, it's an infection, but it's not extremely serious. But because that infection was in his body, it complicated things. It made more medical problems for him, and his body started to have even more issues. So those complications, those other medical problems resulting from bronchitis, that's the reason that he was in the hospital. So medical complications are basically other medical conditions resulting from a disease or from something that happens to you. So good, complications. Okay, so his condition kept him away from home, and then he was admitted to the intensive care unit. Okay, so we call this in English the ICU, the intensive care unit. Does anyone have a guess what they do in the intensive care unit of the hospital? What does that mean?
Yeah,
they take
care of you intensively, right?
Intubate him.
Yeah, so someone, maybe it was Daniel, I couldn't really hear, said they take care of you intensively. Good.
Right.
So in the intensive care unit, they provide you with a lot of care, and they watch over you. So that means he has a pretty serious medical condition. And it was due to a series of setbacks. Okay, what are setbacks?
Failure.
What does setbacks mean?
Failure. Is it right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
Failure.
Yeah, that's a good synonym. So setbacks are problems, failures, a series of things that set you back, things that give you trouble. Okay, so a setback is something that
Failure of treatment.
keeps you.
Backlash. Is it the same thing? Backlash.
Setbacks are different from backlash. So setbacks setbacks are failures. Setbacks are kind of like, I think setbacks, a better synonym is actually obstacles, okay? Things that get in your way. Backlash is different. Backlash means it means a negative reaction to something. So you might get, backlash, I wrote it in the thing, is a negative reaction. So for instance, when politicians say dumb things, they get a lot of political backlash and media backlash. So that means people respond in a negative and pretty, intense way. So in this case, when we're talking about setbacks, we're talking about medical failures. Okay, things kept happening to him that were bad, so they put him in the intensive care unit so that he could receive good quality of care. All right, cool. So who would like to read the next sentence that starts with while? Who would like to read the sentence that starts with while?
Maybe me again.
Okay, go for it.
While Bush's share was still in the intensive care unit, local Dallas radio station, WPAP, apparently received a faulty information of the 41st President of the United States had died. The station sent breaking news alert via email announcing his death.
Okay, good. So they received faulty information that he had died. What does faulty information mean?
False information.
False. Wrong.
Yeah, it basically means false. It means it's not work. Faulty in general means something doesn't work. So if you have a faulty faucet in your sink, maybe that means the faucet leaks and it's dripping water all the time. So faulty means it doesn't work. It's bad. In this case it means it's false. Okay. So it's faulty information. It says someone told them that he had died, and so they sent a breaking news alert. What does breaking news mean? Breaking news.
Breaking news is big
latest news.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that the news is broken, of course. It just means that it's the latest news. Okay, it's the latest. News. Yeah, latest, good. Latest big news. So they
news.
So they sent a breaking news alert via email, and someone took a screenshot of this email. So you can see here it says, "Breaking news: the death of a president, George H.W. Bush." Okay, so the next sentence says, "The only problem is Bush Sr. is still alive and kicking." His spokesman, Jim McGrath, told the Associated Press to put the harps back in the closet, providing some optimism on his condition. Okay, so he's still alive. We use this expression, alive and kicking, to mean that someone is alive and they're doing well. Kicking, when you kick something, you take your foot and you kick it. So if someone's alive and kicking, that means they're doing well. This is a reference to I think to babies. Babies kick with their feet, and fetuses, when women are pregnant, they kick. So that means if you're alive and kicking, that means you're doing okay.
Maybe it's originated from the baby kicking of his mother womb when he is in his pregnancy.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. I think when the baby is in the womb during pregnancy, you can feel it kicking, and that's how you know that it's alive and doing well. So anyway, so Bush Sr. is alive and kicking, And his spokesman told the Associated Press to put the harps back in the closet. So that means shut up. Stop talking about this. This isn't news. This is not a common expression. I have actually never heard the expression before, put the harps back in the closet, but I can interpret that it probably means stop talking about this. A harp is an instrument, so it probably means put the harps away. Okay, who would like to read the next sentence that starts with "and embarrassed"?
Me.
Okay, go.
And embarrassed, VBAP immediately recognized the error in its message and quickly sent a correction.
Okay, good.
Continue.
Yeah, would you like to read the next part too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
A message erroneously reporting the death of President George H.W. Bush was sent out moments ago by WBAP News. The message read, "Mr. Bush has not passed away. We sincerely apologize for this error."
Okay, good. What about this word, erroneously? Erroneously, what does that mean?
Maybe bad manner.
Yeah, that's close.
Erroneously, error from error, or is not correct?
No, that's correct. So when it erroneously reports something, that means that it wrongly reports it or it falsely reports it. Erroneously does, I think, come from the word error. So it's an error, and they wrongly reported his death. Erroneous is a really good vocabulary word. I think it's nice to be able to drop it in a conversation, or maybe a lot of times in writing. Sometimes when people are having a heated argument, they will say, "But that argument, it's completely wrong." So if you want to kind of sound, fancy, it's a good adjective to use. Erroneous. It just means it's wrong. Okay, so then the radio station had to publish an apology because they had done something incorrect. But even though they published the apology, it's still not very good for their reputation that they reported this, because it's kind of a big deal if someone dies. So that's, not too great for the radio station.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other thoughts about this article? What do you think?
Yeah, do you use this expression "make a poodle"? Poodle? Which is when someone, like the radio station, they made a poodle.
Can you write it in the?
Yeah.
Can you type it? Make a.
Because we use this in Sweden. In Swedish.
Oh, make a poodle. No, we don't use that in English. That's funny.
Okay. Do you know what it means?
Make a poodle. So it just means like make a mistake, kind of.
Make a poodle means when you have made a mistake. Like, for example, a politician, if he said something wrong or erroneously, he has to make an apology or make a poodle.
Oh, that's funny. No, we don't. I don't think we don't really have an equivalent expression in English. I mean, what I would say is like, damn, they messed up. They messed up. They have to apologize. But no, we don't have a poodle expression. That's funny. Okay. So any other thoughts about this article? Questions?
No.
All right. So that's some information about George H.W. Bush. Now you know that he threw up on someone and that he is indeed alive and he's not dead. So now we're going to move on a little bit to George W. Bush, his son. So George W. Bush was president, obviously, more recently. Like we said, he was a Republican. And then our current president, Obama, What political party does Obama belong to?
Democrats.
Democrats.
Good. He's a Democrat. So whereas Bush was more of a conservative president, Obama is more liberal in his politics. So we've changed the liberality of the presidency, I guess. We have a kind of different presidency now than we had, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about something that's happened recently that has to do with Obama and also with Bush. It's something that's really important in the news, and that it'll be cool if you can talk about it in English, because even a lot of Americans find this to be a bit of a confusing topic. And that topic is the fiscal cliff. Has anyone heard of the fiscal cliff before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone know what the fiscal cliff is?
It is that the government have to raise the taxes very much because they spend more money than they have.
Good. Okay, that's a great explanation.
Maybe it increases the taxes to the business part of the community, and it's low the tax to the lowest part of poor people.
Right. So that's generally what Democrats like to do. Democrats like to tax businesses, and they like to lower taxes on individuals and families who are lower income. So let's talk a little bit about the economic vocabulary behind this before we get into what it is. The fiscal cliff is about taxes. Okay, it was something that happened recently that was about taxes. So let's see. So the government. How does a government in general make money? Where does the government's money come from? In any
impose taxes.
Good. The government makes money because of taxes. Okay, it taxes people, it taxes companies. Government makes money from tax revenue. And then how do they? Let's see. And how? This is a dumb question. And then they spend money. How do they decide how much money they're going to spend? How do they plan that out?
They make a budget.
Exactly, they make a budget. Okay, and so their budget tells them how much money they are going to spend. What about when they spend? What about when they have to borrow money? When they spend more money than they have? What does that create? What is the name of when we owe money?
Budget deficit.
Okay, good. The budget deficit. So the budget deficit, every year we have a certain budget deficit. In the US, we have just often been spending a lot of money, so we pretty much always have a budget deficit. And then all of these budget deficits accumulate to create the national debt. And so we have a deficit, every year we have a deficit, and that accumulates to create our debt. Okay, so if the government wants to reduce its debt, if the government wants to start to get back some money, what are ways that the government can reduce the debt?
Increase taxes. They will raise taxes and
okay, good. So reducing the debt, you can raise taxes.
You can cut down on expenses.
Exactly, or you can cut down on expenses. You can reduce spending or reduce the budget.
You can borrow from other countries. Is that possible? Would that be possible?
Yeah, so we can call in amounts that other countries owe us. We can do some sort of fundraising. We can do a lot of things. But the biggest ways to reduce the debt are to raise taxes or to reduce spending. Okay, so the problem with raising taxes is that people don't like to pay taxes, right? People don't want to give the government their money. And so if you raise people's taxes, sometimes they have less money, so sometimes they spend less money. So raising taxes, the way that we say it is raising taxes can lower consumption. So for instance, if I'm paying more taxes to the government, instead of going on a vacation, I might not have enough money to go on a vacation. So I might stay home. And those businesses that I would pay my money to on vacation, they don't get my money because I'm staying home. And so the economic activity can go down because people don't have as much money. They don't want to spend as much money. And so there's less money circulating in the economy. So raising taxes is very controversial. And then another question, of course, is who do you tax? How much do you tax rich people? You know, how much do you tax middle class people? And this is the biggest debate that we have over taxes in the United States is how much money do we ask from which people and why? And does anyone have questions so far?
Yeah, I want to say something. One of the French singer leave the French and he is get rid of his nationality, French nationality, and go to the Russian because of his high number of taxes on him.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. I mean, people can do pretty big things if they're forced to pay a lot of taxes. Here in the United States, in the United States, we pay less taxes than in Europe, and we don't, because we have fewer government services. So in general, Americans don't really like to pay taxes. So how does this relate to the fiscal cliff? Well, basically, the previous Congress, our previous government, made a deadline. They said, okay, the next Congress has to decide about tax rates by January 1st, 2013. If they don't do this, if the government doesn't agree on tax rates, taxes are going to go up for everybody. So this was called the fiscal cliff because it was supposed to be a deadline, okay? A deadline is something that means you have to do this by this date, okay? So they said, okay, the government needs to decide on tax rates by January 1st, and if not, everyone loses. If not, tax rates go up for everybody. And so everyone was really worried because the Democrats and the Republicans in our Congress were not agreeing, and they weren't deciding on something and nothing was happening. And everyone was really worried that on January 1st, taxes would go up for everyone. What actually happened was that 3 hours before the deadline on January 1st, our Congress finally agreed on something. Mm-hmm. And they finally agreed on the tax rates that we're going to be charging for like upcoming years. And so the fiscal cliff was a big deal because nobody knew what was going to happen, and as a result, the economy was a little bit uncertain. Okay, the stock market, things like that, suffered a little bit because people were unsure if Congress was going to come to a consensus. And this is important because taxes are important. It's also important because political disagreement in the United States is huge. Our two political parties are very divided. They're more divided now than they've been recently or in history. And so they're always fighting, and they never agree. And so the fiscal cliff kind of shows that even now, even when there's a deadline, sometimes our government can't do it. They can't come up with something. So any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to give you...
to ask something. What is the relationship between the Congress and the President, Vice President of the United States?
Great question. In the United States, we are a democracy, obviously, and we work through a system of checks and balances. So the President has the ultimate executive power, and the Congress has legislative power. So the Congress's job is to make the laws. Okay, the President directs the country. The President is in charge of the military. The President can make emergency decisions in wartime. But the heart and soul of our government really is the Congress, because the Congress makes laws. Our government has three branches: the legislative branch, which is the Congress, the executive branch, which is the President, etc., and the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court and all of the other courts of law in our country. So the President and the Congress work together because the President has to sign things into law. So the President has to approve of laws that Congress makes,
So he can refuse the laws that introduced by the Congress, isn't it?
Yes, so this is called veto. Sorry, this is a lot of information, but basically when the Congress passes a law, the president can say no, and that's called a veto. So he can say, I veto this law, no, I don't want it. What happens then is the Congress can override the president's veto, okay? Override his veto, that means if 2/3 of the Congress, I think it's 2/3, votes for this law, they can override his veto. So if 2/3 agrees, then they can say, too bad, Mr. President, we're passing this law anyways. So this is part of a system of checks and balances where everyone balances each other out. So he can veto it, but if he does, the Congress can also still make it a law if enough of them want it. So the president was basically not really relevant in the fiscal cliff. I think he was going to sign pretty much whatever Congress came up with. The problem was that the political parties in Congress did not agree with each other, and they were having trouble coming up with anything.
So the power of the president is coming from the people who vote him. So from the population, isn't it? And also, what is the power? What is the source of power of the Congress? If you can explain that.
You mean how is the Congress chosen?
Yeah, how the Congress chosen, or how they present the people.
It's like a parliament, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot like a parliament. So our president is elected by the people. So is our Congress. And our Congress, again, sorry, this is a lot of information, but our Congress consists of two houses, similar to the way a parliament is structured. We have the Senate, which is 100 people, and then we have the House of Representatives, which is 500 and something. So the Senate, there's 2 senators for every U.S. state, 50 states, 100 senators. And then there's the representatives are chosen based on population. So California has like 55 or something, and Maine only has 2. So the representatives are based on population. The Senate is based on each state gets 2. And so those 2 houses are also directly elected by each state elects its own representatives.
So the senator is 2 for every state, and representative can be more than 2, isn't it?
Yes, it can be more than 2 depending on the state, and it's
based
on
the
population.
geographic of the state, the population of the state.
Depending on the population. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so with this fiscal cliff, Congress finally avoided it. They finally passed something. And we won't really have time to go over this article, but if you want to open the article that I posted, it's really, really good in simple writing explaining what the fiscal cliff is. A lot of Americans don't understand this, so if you understand this, you should feel very special. Even I don't understand a lot of the technicalities of the fiscal cliff, but this is a really, really good summary of what this means for economics in the U.S. So President Obama signed the bill into law, and everything's going to be fine. But we are looking at higher tax rates than we've had in the past because we do need to reduce our debt because we're coming up on something called the debt ceiling, which means we're borrowing way more money than we are supposed to be. So if you want to read this article on your own time, it's really helpful. Another article that I'm going to give you that relates back to George Bush is this one. This particular article, this particular author believes that the fiscal cliff is good in terms of George W. Bush. George W. Bush is one of the least popular presidents in U.S. history. At the end of his presidency, people didn't really like him very much, but some of the economic policies that we're passing now kind of vindicate him a little bit. They show that maybe he was doing something right, and so all of this it's better for his reputation. So yeah, you can read these two articles if you want to on your own. Does anyone have any questions in the few minutes that we have left about just the way that our system works in the U.S. or what the fiscal cliff is? What questions do you have?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Do you know how the Congress agreed, like how Obama convinced the Congress to to agree with not imposing fiscal cliff?
So basically, the fiscal cliff was something that nobody wanted. The fiscal cliff was a predetermined thing that said that tax rates would go way up. So I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I think mostly it was actually the American public who really wanted this fiscal cliff to be avoided. So all of these senators and representatives were hearing from their constituents, people like me, you know, Americans, were writing and calling and saying, decide something because we don't, you know, we all lose if we all have higher taxes, and nobody wanted that. So in terms of what they actually decided on, I'm not sure, you know, why they picked what they picked, but I think typically Republicans, well, Democrats want higher taxes and Republicans want lower taxes, and then but Democrats want to tax the rich people more, and Republicans don't want that. So that was the biggest problem. And what they ended up doing was the top, like 1% of Americans, their taxes are going up. But other rich Americans, like the upper class, are not experiencing as many taxes as the Democrats wanted. So it's sort of a compromise because we want to tax the rich people, but we don't want to take away everyone's money because they work hard to get it. So,
as you assume that all the United States inhabitants, they are rich people, because the physical cliff is claimed to the business group of population.
I'm not.
Maybe I can explain the physical cliff in 1 minute. The physical cliff is to charge the business group of the population. As charging this group, they will demand higher rates of everything, because they are the main business in United States. So the lower group of the population will be charged more, and so on. This is the problem, the true problem of physical cliff.
It's not necessarily, well, it's not necessarily the problem. The fiscal cliff refers to the January 1st deadline itself. But yes, I mean, that's a problem with, you know, you don't want to be taxing the lower income people more. But what the biggest debate was actually over income tax. Income tax is not a tax for businesses, it's a tax for individuals. So you make your income and you pay an income tax. So that's the kind of tax that was being most debated in this debate with the fiscal cliff. But yeah, it's important to remember that our government does tax businesses and individuals separately. So again, I'm not an economist, but it's this definitely read the article that I sent you, because it gives a really good summary of a lot of this information.
I would like to know how high is the income tax for an average American in percent today? It's different in different states, of course, but
yeah, I'm Googling it because I don't know. I don't make enough income to pay income tax.
Ah, okay.
So I don't actually pay it, but let's see. It looks like it's about 18% federal income tax, and then the states also impose income tax, which I'm not sure how much that is. I would guess that we pay like 20-something%.
20% in total, or 20% on top of 18%?
I would say in total we pay maybe like 20 to 25%.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I studied, it was 16%.
think that depends on how much money you have, like a tax bracket.
So
The more
richer
money you
people,
have, the
people
more
in a
you have to
higher,
pay.
yeah, that's exactly right, Win. So people in a higher tax bracket, people who make more money, pay a higher percentage of income tax. So it depends on which tax bracket you are in.
Yeah.
And we charge a higher percentage for every tax bracket that you increase your income. All right, so that's all the time we have for today. Contact me on my Facebook page if you have more questions. It's facebook.com/LibbyVerbling. My computer's frozen right now, so I can't type it in the chat box, but I'll try to do it in a minute. And yeah, thank you all so much for participating, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Very interesting topic.
Bye bye.
Yeah, thanks.